Oh, I genuinely look like an old lady in her corner, which is the vibe I'm going for, isn't it? Hello there and welcome to my library. If you're new here, hello, my name is Chinsia. And if you're not new here and you're one of my lovely regulars, hi, how are you? I hope you're doing well. My dog has just done the... Look at this cute position. That's the cutest thing you've done in like 5 minutes. She's cute all the time. Anyway, so today's going to be a bit more of a relaxed video. I was going to share with you some books that I've got recently, and when I say recently, I say for Christmas. As you know, I don't buy books on like a casual, regular basis. I'm still doing my no-buy years, and that system that I have in place, whole playlist dedicated to it. There's no need to recap. However, I got a lot of books for Christmas. Technically, I got book vouchers, and I spent them in the bookshop literally Boxing Day. We got through that money very, very quickly. It helped that Waterstones was doing a half price on all hardbacks. It makes me really nervous when she looks at something on the floor like that. I'm like, what is it down there? What can you see that I can't? You're going to write by them. I mean, you can block the mic if you like. I'm not sure it's going to affect anything, but you can do that if you want to. I'd like to say a huge thank you also to the people over on Instagram who gave me some video recommendations. Greatly appreciated. A few of you have asked for study videos, and that won't happen on this channel. It'll happen on my classical academic channel. I have a whole list of videos that I need to make for that channel. Just been very busy, 2 contracts on the go, and PhD. Little bit stressful, but that's something I need to talk about in a video over there. So if you're interested in more productivity-based content, that's on that channel. And for those of you who are following, I just released my next episode for the Bride of Hades series over on Dorian. So episode 4 has just gone live, and I'm doing a live stream over on Dorian tomorrow night at 8 PM as normal. That's my normal live streaming time, and I'm really enjoying it. And in this episode, I've actually contacted the first real monster. We've discussed the Minotaur before, but there's a new monster in this episode, and it's kind of inspired a whole new video series that I'd like to do. So there's that. And if you're one of the writers who take part in my weekly writing groups to win $50 gift card over on Dorian, this week's prompt is actually Cassandra. I thought it'd be fun for people to play with the figure of Cassandra in any kind of context, you know, contemporary, 1920s style, whatever your jazz is. Cassandra is a figure in mythology who is cursed, effectively, or rather she's burdened with the power of being able to predict the future, but no one will ever believe her. And I think that's a really interesting character to play, particularly in a choose your own adventure story where you're kind of telling people, almost you have to play along with the motive that you have this power and no one's going to believe you. And I can seriously see that happening with like an adventure story, like a murder mystery story with Choose Your Own Adventure. So this week's prompt, I will leave a link down below if you're interested in Dorian and following the live stream over on Friday, or entering in the writing prompt for Cassandra to win $50 gift card. Bloody love writing over there. So I hope you also enjoy the next episode if you're going to read it by yourself or if you're joining me on the live stream. There won't be sexy scene in this one. We're focusing more on monsters and going into the depths of like the dark forest and exploring different mythical creatures. I thought that'd be a nice twisty turn. Anyway, now I've got all that out the way, today's video is actually all about the books that I got for Christmas. And one of them, I'm going to share the first one already because I read it already, and it's actually being used to prop up this plant here. Basically, I use books to prop up different things, particularly when I'm not going to read them anytime soon. Like I read it a while ago, but I really like it and keep it in my library. So it's propping up this little wee plant here, which I haven't given a name for her yet. If you want to give her a name, let me know. All Greek or Roman mythology names, so by all means, name my plant. Anyway, that book that's propping up her is actually the story of the Bayeux Tapestry, which I'll insert a picture of here. And I realised when I was buying with my wee little voucher that my friend Joe sent me, that I had never read or learned anything about the Bayeux Tapestry, or 1066, as is more famously known, the Battle of Normandy. I must have been the only person in England that never got taught about the Battle of Normandy in school. It wasn't something that we covered at all. The idea that I'm now in a quote-unquote professional historical kind of position, or potential to be in a historical or ancient historical position in my future if I am successful in the field, which is unlikely. However, the fact that I'm in any kind of history realm fascinates me, because I had the worst history teachers growing up. I had one good one, and sadly she got ill, so she only lasted for a term, and she's the one that got me into Pompeii. And the teacher that took over that, she taught us about crop rotations, and I was not interested in anything remotely English or British history. However, after 2 years of crop rotations, I finally grew up, became 30 years old, and decided I wanted to learn about the Bayeux Tapestry, and I really freaking enjoyed this. This book is basically a close zoom in of the Bayeux Tapestry itself, explaining every segment, fragment by fragment. That was one of the first books I read this year, and I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. So if you're interested, I've linked all these books down below. Now this one I secretly wanted it in paperback, but my aunt got it me for Christmas, and I'm not going to say no. This is Storyland by Amy Jeffs, and again, this is a new mythology of Britain. There's a story of Nessie! There's a Nessie tale in here. Had no idea. I'm trying to learn about more mythology outside of the realm of Greek and Roman. I'm actually currently listening to an audiobook on the Poetic Edda. I'm saying on the poet. It is the Poetic Edda. Again, I've been putting that off for years and years and years. The audiobook's interesting, but again, I'm finding the audiobook very useful because there's no way in hell I would have been able to pronounce any of the names except for Loki and Thor outside of what they're mentioning. So I'm really, really appreciating it. Also, it's then got me yearning for Lord of the Rings, and I want to read Lord of the Rings again. It's a whole system. My cycle of reading is just so flippant. It's unbelievable. And yet I have like zero free time to read, which is really frustrating, which is why I'm turning to audiobooks at the moment to, you know, make amends for the lack of free time that I have and zero social life. This one I mentioned in a video back in Vlogmas. I mentioned I really wanted to get this book, and when I obviously 50% off on Waterstones, I had a gift card, we're spending it. This is Malcolm Gaskell's The Ruin of Witches, Life and Death in the New World. This is obviously more of an American, the Salem witch trials and all that jazz. However, I have yet to read a good book on this subject. I've read a couple of books on, the Salem witch trials and witches in America, and I haven't enjoyed them. The best book I've ever read on witches is A European Witch Hunt by Goodare. I can't remember his first name. Obviously link below as well, and put a picture on here. Goodare. That's my ultimate favourite book on witches. I think it was so comprehensive, it was so detailed, and it's a textbook, but it's incredibly interestingly well written. Interestingly well written? Me as graduate, me as clever. So yeah. So I'm hoping this is going to be the book that, changes my perspective on how this time period is written about in, witch trials in America. Then, okay, I hadn't heard of this anywhere. And of course, when I'm in the shop, I see it, I'm like, yes, let's get this. Athens, City of Wisdom by Bruce Clark. Really appreciate reading different people's versions. Not versions, but rather how they tell the history. I don't have the brain power. I'm not that smart. I don't have the capacity to learn about so many subjects all at the same go. I'm trying to do a work-life balance. On my other channel, we'll discuss it in more details there. I won't bore you with it, but yes, I just thought it'd be fun to read about Athens from not different perspective. Again, just how people interpret. These aren't even the correct words that I'm using. How people present history, how they want people to engage with history, and what they highlight and forefront. Because everyone forefronts something when they're writing about history in some way. There's always something they want people to take away first and foremost. And it's not to say that everyone has an agenda, it's just where their interest lies. And that's where the emphasis lies, because just purely down to their interests. And people will elaborate on certain areas. I just really appreciate when I'm reading about history. So let's see what Bruce Clark has to say about that. The next one again, I really need to finish my video on the libraries, the history of libraries, mainly in ancient world. And I was waiting if I should just do a general idea of the history of the library and then a separate video on the Library of Alexandria, or maybe just ancient history, like ancient libraries, and then include the Library of Alexandria in there. Let me know what you think. Anyway, can you tell I have like a million projects in my head and just not enough brain power, too low IQ, too little time, all of the things, it's everything. But anyway, A Fragile History of the Library. This is by who was Andrew Pettigrew and Arthur de Verduven. I'm going to assume it's Verduven or Weduwen. Could be either. I love when book designers put effort into little wee things about this. But so this is divided more into like the practicalities of a library. So we have like the inception of survival, the crisis of print, the new collectors, between public and private, fictions, and the war on books. So they're more like topical discussions and highlighting of them rather than like ancient divings into favorite. Like they will obviously probably touch on famous libraries, but there's not like an in-depth like history of the library. This is how it began, this is where it evolved, this is where the next library is more like discussion topics of the point, which is fascinating to me. I've never seen one like this. I've never seen a book like this before, so I hope this is good. I actually haven't met anyone who's read it, but by the way, these are kind of the books on my side pile right now because they're the ones I want to get to outside of my PhD reading. A balance I haven't yet struck, but hopefully we will one day, eventually, when I become rich. I don't have to work so much anytime. Anyway, now this, do you want to hear about some Twitter gossip? Okay, so this book wasn't on my radar at all until late last year. Not like at the end of last year, but potentially in the autumn. all this shall be left unnamed. However, a professor out there, a male professor, tweeted this book. He took a photograph of it, clearly on a Waterstones table. And as you can see, this is called Ancestors by Professor Alice Burns, Prehistory of Britain's Seven Burials. Fascinating topic. He took a photograph of it, and he basically said how pretentious it was that this Alice Roberts put the title professor on the front cover. Like, it's so pretentious and cringeworthy when people put their doctorates and titles in things. This coming from a man who had his professorship and doctorate title in his Twitter handle, as well as on his name, on his profile. So it was embedded everywhere in his search engine. He was criticising her for having the term professor on a book because it was cringeworthy. I've never heard anyone say this about Professor Brian Cox. Professor Brian Cox is mentioned everywhere. Professor Brian Cox's television show, Professor Brian Cox's books have professor everywhere. Interesting choice, sir. So he rightfully got screwed over on Twitter. It was glorious, and through that discussion that I saw on Twitter, I saw her book, and I wanted to support Professor Alice Roberts. So I got her book on Ancestry. Now this, I will confess, isn't normally my field of my history. Obviously, I tend to stick to non-British history. We're talking about the Greek and Roman Empire before they came to, like, well, I don't even cover the Romans in Britain normally. I have a very, very basic understanding of them, as you saw from my very brief discussion on the Vindeland tablets earlier this year. It is something, however, I really want to get into. I have a couple of books on Greece's influence in Edinburgh specifically, and I am really excited to read those too as well. I would like to do some more work in Edinburgh, seeing the classical reception and relationship with ancient Athens and potentially Rome. It's a whole field that I have never explored. This one I'm actually really excited for, which you may be surprised. Can you tell I'm just like bringing up the books? This is The Ottomans, Khans, Caesars and Caliphs by Mark David Baer. I just realised I was facing away from the microphone. Hope you actually heard that. Basically, the Ottomans, history of the Ottomans and the Ottoman Empire. And this is something I didn't cover at all in university. I have basic understanding of it, as, you know, a classicist should have, but I specialise more in literature than I do like ancient history, archaeology, and in the Ottomans. I was like, well, you know what, I need to read more about it on a non-academic level, like more for fun, get a general gist of it. This is a general gist. And the final one is The 12 Caesars by Mary Beard. Classic. As you know, I'm not a massive fan of Beard based on their conduct online. I am not sure of the caliber of their personality based on, you know, just how behaviours online go. They say some concerning things. At the same time, I'm studying a lot of her work for my PhD, and I really enjoy her writing and her research. And as a researcher, I really appreciate and respect her work. It's something I aspire to be. Can never be, but you know, it's something that we all like aspire to, a lot of us in the field anyway. Just be better with how you treat people in life, and be careful of how you speak online is a message that I've learned from Mary Beard via her mistakes. You know, it's amazing what you can learn from people when you take away your frustration and anger about how they're behaving and go like, thank you for teaching me how not to be a human. I've got 3 other Christmas books over there that I can see that I completely forgot about because they were the ones that my aunt and my mother got me. But I think I'll save those for when I actually review them. They're all by the same author, potentially. They're all on the same theme. That may give you a hint. They're wee big books, but I think I discussed those in one video together because I think they're worthy of an analysis. But yes, these are the books that I got for Christmas, most of them, except for those 3 over there, and the one that's underneath this plant. I've listed them all down below. Thank you so much for watching. And just a reminder, I'm doing a live stream over on Dorian tomorrow night at 8 PM. Here are the times, if you're not familiar with the times in your zone. The times in your zone, the zone in your times. Can you tell I've been up for a long time? I have been working non-stop since 7 o'clock in the morning. It's now just turned 8. And I have to edit this video. So I'm tired. To say the least, I am tired. But I am hoping I'm getting to a point in my life where I can like blitz through a day. This won't be tiring anymore. And I can do this. I can do this. We can have some fun eventually. A social life won't happen for the next 7 to 8 years. That's fine. I can accept that. But I'd like to get back to reading again. So hopefully this fantastic stack of books will inspire me to get reading faster outside of the realm of PhD. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely weekend and see you next time for another video. And remember, books save lives, so keep